Hey, how's it going? Rachel here from Forge FM. Before we go any further, hammer that like bell, subscribe, and today we are talking about the Diesel Unholy Cocktail. This is in the shape of torpedo, as some call it, or the more classical name, the belicoso. Belicoso in English means like aggression, warlike, but torpedo shape also fits equally as well. So let's get this thing lit up. Let's see what's going on here. This wrapper is definitely not playing along. Usually you got to get it a little warm before you can get that off. This guy today's got to come off now, otherwise we'll be smoking paper. Sometimes that happens too. Sometimes part of the cap will come off and stick in your mouth. Let's make sure this is fully lit. Still my favorite way to light a cigar. Hands down. So here we are. This is our maiden voyage. First third of this cigar. So far, yeah, my torch almost fell on me. This cigar is actually kind of budget. It's kind of middle of the road. It's good. Nothing I'd write home about. Definitely something if I had a friend that was into cigars that stopped over, I might offer one of these actually. If I have, we'll say a few on hand. Even if it's my last one. So far I'm not so crazy, but I just started it and we'll see where we're going with this. So I will get back to you when I get a little further into the stick. All right, so I'm fully into the first third of this cigar at this point, and let's talk about it a little bit. So as I said before, it's a belicoso shape. Some call it torpedo. Belicoso is the professional name, if you will. And this is made from a Pennsylvania broadleaf. This is I've not had a lot of experience with the Pennsylvania broadleaf. I've had a lot of experience with the Connecticut. I don't know much about the Connecticut's yet, but I can say this one has a very strong cinnamon taste to it. I'm not sure if that's caused by the Pennsylvania broadleaf, the filler, or what. This is not sweet tipped. It's just, good old fashioned cigar. It's filled with Nicaraguan binder and filler and then wrapped up in a Pennsylvania broadleaf and then spank it on the bottom and sent out the door. This has a really good draw. And as you can see, this thing burns really well. It has a great clean burn. And the smoke volume is fantastic. And that is something that I think every smoker that really likes cigars likes a good amount of smoke volume. And this is one of those cigars, and this has that really nice oily wrapper that some people like to call oily. This one, it doesn't have quite the shimmer as it can. I know I've seen some before that are really almost in your hands because you could get the oil wiped off on them. And this one right here, it's just very run of the mill. There's nothing spectacular I'm finding about it. It's just basic. I'm actually kind of bummed out by this one. The Diesel Unholy Cocktail. This didn't go quite as well as I was hoping it would. It's still just kind of meh. So, I'm going to get into the second, third, and I'll come back and I'll report, see if anything changes. Alright, so I'm at the beginning of the second third of this. As you see, I have not ashed it yet. This is actually still the original ash. It holds an ash really well. And what's really fun about when you get an ash this long is you can actually, let's see if it'll focus. You can actually see the points of where you take a drag off it here and there with those little lines, almost like the rings on a tree. Let's see. Oh, well, smartphones being smarter than me. But so far, this cigar, I know I've said that a lot, and this is second, third. I was hoping it would change a bit. And at this point, at least at this level, it's coming across like a Swisher sweet, non-sweet, a Swisher, and just a nicer Swisher. I'm not really impressed with this cigar at all. It is kind of meh. Truthfully, this one is kind of meh. Let's see. The retro hell, it affords a little bit more pepperiness, the usual stuff. A little bit creamy, I guess, cinnamony. It's coming apart a little bit. You can see that. I don't know if you can see that real well, but it's starting to kind of tear apart a little bit. That could be because I might have smoked it a little too hard when I first started lighting it up, I guess. Or it was sitting out in my shop and it got too cold, I guess. But it was above freezing in here all day. Um, I got the 5 pack Unholy sampler from Diesel. I think the uncut only Unholy sampler or something like that. And I have to say I haven't liked any of them yet. They've all been just kind of eh. Um, I got really excited with it being Diesel. You know what? Throw it back to when I was in high school. That Diesel clothing was like the fancy clothes, and I thought this would be a little bit more debonair. I know it's a budget stick, but there's been some budget sticks out there that are really quite good. I would not consider this one, although I would consider this one a good budget stick. The Aaron Gobra Irish Whiskey. This is a good budget stick. This is one I would suggest. This is not one. But I would still give this to a friend if they came over and they like cigars because I could offload it onto them and they wouldn't complain because it's still a Diesel. I guess for me, at least with my experience with them, is the Oliva G. I had one. It was way too tight to smoke. It was not impressive. I don't know what the deal was there. I'm gonna have to dance with that one again to see what's going on. But this one right here so far, I didn't expect to be this let down. So you know what? I'll talk about what I'm drinking right now. I'm having a blackened. I don't know if you guys have ever had blackened before. It is a whiskey that was developed by James Hetfield of Metallica, and he also has a cigar or two cigars. He has the M81 and then the S84, and both of those were made to complement and be had simultaneously with the blackened whiskey. And I have to say the whiskey is absolutely fantastic. I love it. It's one of my favorites. And I'm like Isla Scotch is actually my go-to. But Blackened is just a damn good American whiskey. It's a blend of straight whiskeys, which is a new thing I'm starting to see more commonly titled on more than just Jack Daniels. Since Scotch has taken off so much, so American whiskeys are starting to keep up with that. But here I am talking about the whiskey I'm drinking when I should be talking about this cigar. And the cigar is it's just so meh. Like, I'd put this up in like the yard guard territory where you don't need anything too spectacular. You don't need anything that requires too much thought. You just want to have a nice smoke for the time, and you could set it down and come back to it or lose it, and you wouldn't be too sad about it. Other than it's not cheap like most yard guards. Um, I will get back to you when I get to the beginning of the last third. Sit tight. Okay, so I'm coming in on the end of the second third, rounding in on the last third, and it still is pretty much just kind of like a swisher, uh, just a nicer swisher, not by a lot. Actually, that's really disappointing. I've never been so disappointed in a cigar, and usually it takes me a few to really get a good opinion. Um, I could try this again someday. The thing about it is it really was rolled really well. The construction on this is fantastic. The cold draw, which I didn't do any of that on film, I wish I would have, was great. This thing has at no point in time burned poorly. It's been burning really quite even the whole time. The smoke volume is fantastic. Like if someone handed me this, I would never tell them no. How about that? This is definitely a decent cigar. To the point that if you were someone that was kind of a friendly person and you wanted to carry, say, a 3 pack of sticks and you always wanted to have like one or two mooch sticks on you, this would actually be a really good one. And it's like I said, it's not complex, it's not crazy, it's just a good old fashioned cigar. That's the nice thing I can say about it. It's just a good old fashioned cigar. And I don't have anything against those. They definitely have their place. I'm still a fan of cheroots. People laugh at those and they think they're low quality, but I love them. They're just such a good old-fashioned dirty cigar, just the old-fashioned way. And they tend to smoke really well too, which is surprising because people think they're so bad. Um, but this, it is what it is. It's okay. The retro hail is just okay. Um, it doesn't really expose much. Doesn't really bring out extra stuff. Like sometimes the retro hail can really open up your palate to some really nice flavors. Like that's how you can start getting like the more pepperiness, which this has a lot of cinnamon in it. Or well, it doesn't have cinnamon in it, but it just tastes like cinnamon. And it has a bit of pepperiness on the retro hail. Doesn't really have a lot of creaminess. I didn't get a lot of chocolate or leather or anything like that, the more common flavors. It's been just pretty run of the mill. I forgot to turn my heater off, so it's a little bit loud. I apologize for that. Anyway, well, Well, I'm getting down to the nub. I'm gonna say that I'm calling it on this one. I'll finish it, but I'll finish it off camera because I will just start being more frowny faced, and no one wants to look at a frowny face all the time. And so, you know what I'll say? Give them a shot. It's worth trying. You might actually like it. And that's the great thing about cigars is everyone's palate is just so completely different than the next person. And some might say, a Davidoff is the best cigar they've ever had, or a Padron, or an Ashton. I really like Padron. That's one I really like. And it just depends on the person. There are some that like really strong cigars. There are some that like really light cigars. There are some that like Pennsylvania broadleaf wrap cigars. There are some that like Connecticut. There are some that like a whole slew of different ones. There's Sumatran. There's Nicaraguan. It just goes on and on. It's an endless world. It's so much fun. It's a world that you just cannot learn enough on. They even have magazines about it. Aficionado, that's a great one. They have a lot of information. They have articles you can look up from yesteryear still. Well, my monkey hat and my sock monkey hat, because I am a monkey myself, because I don't know how to put things down when I pick them up. And that's how I found things like my cell phone and the refrigerator. Most of us have been there. Not all of us, but most of us. Some will admit it. Most won't. And, alright, I'm going to wrap this up. How do I leave you guys? Have a cigar. Tell everyone you know you love them. Well, maybe not everyone you know. But you know what? Tell your loved ones that you love them. Hug them. We never know when that last day will be. And you know what? Go Tigers. Cheers.